Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Pies Nation podcast, where the pies are hot and the drinks are cold. My name is Nicholas Sacco, your host for another episode. This is episode 16 of season 7, or episode 189, if you are counting from the beginning. It was an ugly and very tough watch at Marvel Stadium on Saturday night, but it did not derail the Pies' quest for a 7th straight win. So we picked up a 29-point victory over the Eagles and now sit 10 points clear on top of the ladder. Today, we discuss why Saturday night's performance won't be one we expect to see from the remainder of the season. We hear what the fans had to say on SpeakPie and, of course, chat to our next guest, the crowd competition winner. And to help me run through this highly entertaining game at Marvel Stadium is Jack Dugan and Luke Humphries, who were both there at the scene. Boys, trying to catch your breath, I'm sure, from that incredible display, but the reality is we were still good enough to get the points, and we are in a pretty comfy position on top of the ladder.
Well, if you had said that Carlton were going to lose by 50 this week, Nico, and we were going to win by 5 goals, everyone would have taken that to the bank. It was a bit of a dismal watch on Saturday night. It was probably a sort of performance we saw coming from an absolute mile away, and I thought it was actually well summed up and well put by Lukey's post after the game when we got to see his immediate reaction after the siren. I think that probably spoke volumes for how Collingwood supporters around the country were feeling about that performance. But got away with the 4 points. We're 10 points clear at the top of the ladder, I think, off the top of my head, and that's a pretty good spot to be.
Yeah, it was a genuine take the win and kind of move on pretty much straight away. I even felt like the boys didn't want to sing the song afterwards. It was pretty lackluster effort, but no, got it done. I felt, again, we had 2 little patches, I think the second quarter and the third quarter, where we put on about 2 goals each of those little patches. That was pretty much the difference in the game. I thought West Coast contested pretty well, and we just had to sort of manage our way through it and get the job done in the end.
Well, we did start a little stronger in the second half, but I think a lot of people would agree that the turning point was certainly that Dan Houston goal in the last seconds before three-quarter time, when it sort of just affirmed that we're the ones in control here and we're able to go away. 9 goals we kicked in the second half, 8 of the last 10. So I think it was pretty much game, set, match from there. All right, well, let's not waste too much time. Let's get into the crux of this game. And we'll start as we always do with the pie that caught my eye. Jack, take it away.
The pie that caught my eye this week was Locky Sullivan. I think he had a really big job to do, not to be underestimated, is that obviously we know how our injuries look at the moment with no Bo McCreary, no Lockie Schultz, and of course Bobby unfortunately going out of the game late on Saturday due to personal reasons. Obviously hope he's okay and he's going to be back soon firing for us, but obviously important for him to take the time to look after himself. But not only was he fortunate to be there on Saturday night playing the role that he was, but I thought there was a lot of pressure on him because he was it. Like, he was our small forward pressure man, and he stepped up in droves. His pressure was on all night. I thought when we were probably a little bit lacklustre in that first half, he was one that could certainly hold his head high, and his goal really exemplified his night. I think he put his head over it for the 4 quarters, and then when he got his goal, it was from putting his head over at the top of the goal square and kicking a nice classy one, which I actually thought I missed where I was sitting. I couldn't figure out why everyone was salivating. But again, just wanted to highlight Locky Sullivan's impact on the game in a game where he really did need to step up.
I said to my partner, that is the perfect goal. The way he's bent over, spun, avoided complete contact and able to finish there is exactly what you want from an AFL footballer.
I did like his game, don't get me wrong. I thought he was very impressive. I don't know if I see him long-term, though, as a forward. I really would love some opportunities for him in the middle a little bit more, because at the end of the day, when we were picking him up from the VFL ranks, that's where he was playing and being at his most influential. I understand it's very hard to get into that mix at the minute, and we have so much depth, which is fantastic from our point of view, and also understanding he was having to play a role on Saturday night with a lot of those small pressure forwards out. He was more than serviceable, as you touched on, Jack. But yeah, I would like, hopefully in the near future, I think he's got a place in this side. I'd just love to see some chances in the middle for him.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Especially considering how our midfield numbers are still trending sort of not... They were a little bit better. I think we might have won the clearances by anywhere that 5 to 10 range, but it's an area of the game that we all know as Collingwood supporters, and I'm sure the club's fully aware that we're struggling a little bit. And we've seen last year, we saw when he got his crack in there, Locky Sullivan, that he was more than effective. So maybe that's where we push him up. But playing that small forward role, that pressure forward role on Saturday night, I thought he was more than effective as well.
All right, Lukey.
Player that caught my eye, Nick Daicos, and not for good reason this week as much as it normally is. Now, I know he did have a good game, but if you were there watching, it was one of those games where you felt, and he's probably one thing he does have to cut out just a little out of his game, is a bit of selfishness in trying to milk up a few disposals. I know he's most of the time trying to do it for the good of the team and to get a run on, but there were quite a few times, and it was probably the most noticeable I've ever seen it on Saturday night, where he was calling for it in positions where he shouldn't have been calling for it. He was passing off to teammates who are in even more dangerous positions when he did have the ball, and sort of running us into trouble. His disposal then at times was, kicking it straight to an opposition player or not an effective disposal. So just needs to be careful with getting the quick handballs and being in the right positions to actually receive them. That is actually going to be damaging for us. Now, I know they were probably trying to experiment with a few things on Saturday night, and probably with the tag not being that heavy on him, he was trying to get just a few more touches and have a bit more fun, but we just have to be careful sometimes that we're not handballing to him when he's not in a position that he is going to be able to be damaging with the football, and he's not also calling for the ball when he shouldn't. Because as well, I'll put the torch on some of our other players. Don't just pass to Nick because he's calling for it. We also need to realise he's not in a good position and, find the better option. So it's a team thing as well, but Nick, it is just one thing he needs to just work on a little. Obviously, we want the ball in his hands as much as possible, but it was probably the most frustrated I've been with him, I guess, across his career so far.
I'm glad you brought it up, Lucky. I was going to pose that question to you both. How much is it on Nick to, one, not be calling for the ball in some of the positions he was on Saturday? Because it was clear that it felt like without the tag there that he was trying his absolute best just to get his hands on the footy as much as he could. But I also feel sometimes we're kicking it to him when we just shouldn't be even looking to him. We get, like the term we used on Saturday was, we're just too Nick-centric at the moment. Like anytime we get the ball, we're choosing to kick it to him in a 2-on-1 as opposed to, going long down the line and just moving the ball how we have so far this season. So I think it's a bit of a two-sided coin there. One, definitely Nick perhaps seemed as though he was overdoing it on Saturday night. Still, was probably top 3 best players.
It was great
on the ground. Marcus, Nick Daicos Brownlow watch highlighted in our group chat today that he probably picks up the 2. However, I agree wholeheartedly with Lukey. It felt like we were too Nick-centric for one, and without the tag that potentially, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but maybe he was just trying a little bit too hard.
Yeah. See, I pin this more on the team than Nick individually. So I'm sure there were moments throughout Saturday night where he was calling for the ball in positions where he wasn't going to be impactful or it was going to cause us to have a bit more trouble. But as we'll touch on shortly about his brother admitting today that they definitely overhandballed and were trying to be too possessive at times, going from defence to attack in that first half.
Just kick the ball.
and credit to the team and Fly for picking up on it and changing tact after half time, which obviously went on to win us the game. I just think it's highlighted a little bit more with Nick because he is getting plenty of the football and he is the attention and he's the one that we're all trying to look for. So I think I would like to see, again, you guys make a good point about not relying on Nick so much and probably looking for him at the first time. In saying that, I think if we had have reverted to the original style of play that we were doing previously and going a bit longer down the line, deeper entries inside 50 rather than the short kicks we were having in the defensive half, I maybe don't think the onus would be as much on Nick. But I understand both points. I think they're both very valid.
Yeah, it's just a little watch with when you come up against better sides. He's going to get crunched and he's not going to be making, hitting the right targets that he should be. He kind of got away with it against a poorer side in West Coast, but still they got him a few times or had him under the pump and it was a turnover from us. There was one I remember where he sort of got a little gap inside 50 and I can't remember whoever was having a shot was about 45 out, ended up passing to Nick. And then, 3 West Coast players kind of cut it off and we lose a shot at goal. So just being, careful with not just because he's got a little bit of space, don't just give it to him because, the players from all angles are going to get him. So
maybe clubs are starting to realise that that's the tactic.
It's almost like the other sides might relinquish the tag a little just to pull that pressure off. So we do pass it to him and then they swarm in. So it's just a balancing act, I guess.
The part that caught my eye was Charlie Dean. Now, before anyone starts going on about him, He's coming in to play a role, obviously, with Billy Frampton, which is a big loss, a massive loss for us over the next few weeks of him not being in this team. And Charlie Dean has been terrific at VFL level this year, particularly, and I felt like he's getting his best run yet. Probably wasn't expecting to come into the senior side much, if at all, this year, just again because of the depth that we've got at our disposal. Unfortunately, a poor night for him, but I really don't want to lay the boots into Charlie. I'm a big believer in him being a permanent fixture in this team in the long term. I know it wasn't great to see him get out muscled a few times or give away a few clumsy free kicks. I think he only ended up having the 1 or 2 turnovers, but beside the point, this is his 9th AFL game, and I really don't want to pin everything onto one match. The reality is it's very likely he plays again this week. Even if Maynard does come back, he's probably taking over Markov's spot. So Charlie Dean is still going to be someone we need to rely on over the next few weeks at a minimum, with, of course, Curnow coming up, Ben King with Gold Coast the following week as well. I've got faith that he can turn it around. It doesn't look great because it's against a West Coast side that basically didn't have a forward line, and he struggled in that contest. Our defensive unit has still been fantastic, kept them to under 10 goals again on Saturday night, and I just don't really want to pin a little bit more of a disappointing performance from a team perspective on Charlie Dean. Yes, he didn't have a great game. He was probably in our bottom 3 or 4 for the night, but I don't want to see him out of this team after one game. Should he keep these performances up after 2 or 3, then we have a different conversation. Yes, he could be one of those players that are just really good at VFL level and not at AFL level, but I still think he's got the natural instincts to be a really good defender in this side. He's just got to find his place a little bit more, and I hope for his sake that he can come good soon, because this next little patch that he's going to be involved in will be pivotal for us going forward and contending for a premiership.
Well, similar connotations, to what we've just been talking about, Nick. You felt on the night there was perhaps a few areas of Charlie's game where he was trying a bit too hard and perhaps wasn't simplifying his role. I know that's been a bit of an issue for the bloke he came in for, Billy Frampton, as well, sometimes maybe just trying to do a bit much. I know he's only played the 9 games, but, cast your mind back to last year when he played Freo, which is probably his breakout performance when his role was simplified and he kept it simple, and I thought he was really important for us. And for someone like Charlie Dean, I feel like this is an opportunity now for him just to string, 3 to 4, hopefully more weeks of footy along and build that confidence is going to be most important for him. But I agree with you, Nick. I'd love to. I think I'm a big believer in Charlie Dean as well, and I certainly think he's got a role to play within this side. And with our ageing list and certainly our ageing defence, we're going to need him too. So getting games into him now is going to be really important.
And this is not making an excuse for his performance, because it was unfortunately very disappointing to see the way he did go about it on Saturday. But I just don't think we should be ridiculing him too much so quickly when I still feel like he's got an opportunity. I mean, you got to remember he's been dealing with a lot of foot injuries since we brought him across from Williamstown, and has had to struggle in terms of trying to get some consistency around his game. So I would really like us to just have a bit more of a chance or give a bit more time for him to settle in. He's got some big tasks coming up. He's got a great supporting cast in Darcy Moore and Jeremy Howe right behind him that I'm sure will help him through, and he'll learn a lot from that. But let's take it easy before we start going at Charlie.
You know what footy supporters are like. There's no chances for anyone. So
especially us. I feel like that's our negative thing as Collingwood supporters. We are so quick to write people off, and then conversely so quick to jump on the bandwagon and be singing their praises. But yeah, just a bit of consistency for Charlie's going to be massive.
It also goes across to not quite nowhere near the level of, I guess, people coming for him, because it was obviously a fantastic night for Charlie West making his debut, but he obviously has dominated at VFL level. But even at the ground, there were people thinking what's going on? Like, he hasn't come out and kicked 5 goals. So sort of laying the boots in a little to a first gamer who is just trying to find his way in football, let alone at AFL level. So it does come quickly for a lot of the players, especially being a Collingwood player.
Well, this is a great segue, because there was a lot of criticism about our selection on Saturday night, with us being potentially a bit too tall in the forward half, with McStay, Myercheck, Membry, of course, Charlie West playing that role too, and a few others rotating there. It meant that we lacked a lot of pressure at ground level in the forward half, and that was a big concern. And that's unfortunately going to happen when you don't have Lockie Schultz, Bo McCreary and Bobby Hill in there. It's going to make it tough for you to win that part of the game, even though we were coming up against a much less talented West Coast side. Are you still happy with the way that the team panned out in terms of what that selection looked like on Saturday night? And what would you like to see moving forward? Because there was no doubt Charlie West had to play on Saturday. It was a perfect opportunity for him to come in, and I still thought he was okay at times. It was wonderful to see him get his goal with his first kick of the in his senior career, but there were some questions definitely raised about what that makeup of the side looked like on the weekend.
There was, Nico, and I think it would be interesting to see if Checkers wasn't due to pay his 150th, how if potentially it was probably a really good opportunity for him to get a rest this week, I thought, or even a Timmy Membry. Decided to go with the four toils. No doubt that was an experimental thing. Without being arrogant, this is definitely the game to do it against the bottom side in West Coast, who we haven't actually sung their praises enough. That's one of their better performances they've had this year. I know we weren't on top of our game, but they were really, really strong at the contest. They moved the ball really well, and I made a comment on the night saying that their best footy probably on the night was a lot better than our best footy. They just weren't able to do it for long enough. But on Charlie West's point, I think not only did we lose the pressure, Nico, without our smalls being there, but we also just looked like no one knew who was going when. Like the amount of times I was sat inside the forward 50 on Saturday night, and it was just sort of like, it's going back to 2021, Collingwood, like someone lead at the ball carrier. There was no one, I don't think, knew whose turn it was or when to go or when they should go. And obviously, Charlie West, being the young incumbent into this side, he wasn't going to be the one. But when he did, I thought, although he wasn't clunking them on the night, thought he was clean enough below his feet. I thought there was enough there to be pretty excited about for the future.
Yeah, that was my biggest takeaway from our forward line, was the fact that it just felt like you said, no one quite knew whose turn it was to go. And when we kind of got sat at sort of half-back line and sort of on the wing trying to move the ball forward, you could see our forwards just kind of like just moving around. No one's really making, and then it was just a kind of long down the line kind of attempt. So that's not Charlie West's fault at all. It's his first game and he's just coming in trying to find his way. But he probably suffers because of the loss of the small forwards in that forward line, is that we probably see him come out and kick 2 or 3 if we got a Bobby Hill and a Bo McCreary or Schultz in there helping out and taking that pressure off. So I felt that was definitely our biggest weakness, and it's probably not something we're going to see much going forward, I think, is having that tall forward line, because it just felt like it didn't work. And I feel like our DNA right now as a Collingwood side is pressure in that forward line. That is where we get a lot of our goals from.
So assuming Bobby's available, does what happens in the forward
I'd love
line
to see
week?
West, though, get a couple games, but it just depends. And like you said, Checkers, potential rest. Obviously,
because McCreary won't be ready and Schultz is probably 50-50 at this stage.
So, and then
we're not going to rush those guys back in either. So you'd think he's probably going to get another go. I think someone like, not that they've been performing poorly, but I think it's a good time, 10 points clear, top of the ladder. I mean, I'm so glad I am saying this, but, we're playing against Carlton, who are an absolute rabble at the moment. So you'd expect us to get the 4 points this week. Again, fingers crossed. But is this a good time to, give Checkers, give, Dan McStay, who we know has just come back in. Tim Membry's flying, but is it a good time to have a rest before we have to go interstate? Who knows? And
I think for West, it's getting a bit more responsibility in that forward line. He's had the responsibility in the VFL, and that's why he's shined. So it just felt like he, coming in, it's your first game, but also you're the fourth target, I guess. So it's like, it kind of just felt like he didn't have quite that
so foreign for him.
Natural instinct to, all right, I can't go because, I've got 3 ahead of me that I got to go for it. So, and looking ahead to Friday night against Carlton, you'd love to see him get a game at the MCG in front of 80, 90,000, depending if Carlton supporters turn up. But it would be great to see him, because it felt like playing at Marvel against West Coast feels like not quite the Collingwood experience.
No, of course not.
But
never is.
You get the MCG with a full house. That is the Collingwood experience.
We took up about going to Marvel, don't we? That's what I've had the last few weeks.
With good reason, Jack.
Even just the Collingwood chance, it just felt like it's not normal. Like, it's not proper when it's at Marvel. So I'd love to see Westy. And as well, I hate a debutant getting pulled straight away. And it's the same for Charlie Dean. I know it's not his debut, but I'd love to see him get a couple, 2 to 3 weeks consistency at the top before being brought back due to bigger names coming back.
So I'd say it's this. So Braden Maynard definitely will play this week. They argued that he was probably ready to go on Saturday, but the extra week will help him, which is great.
Did either of you listen to Craig McRae talk about Maynard prior?
What did he say?
It was just the way they kept pushing him with a few questions. So he clearly said he was fit, and then it was just, it was almost like he didn't want to say, well, we're just playing West Coast, so we're just going to wait on it. Because he said he was fit, and they're like, so what's the issue? And he kind of,
So we're just playing Carlton.
So he's definitely has to play this week, definitely. But it was just funny the way because he got pressured into a few questions. And I thought, well, it's because of West Coast.
Yes, it will be very interesting for sure. Again, there's not really much to dissect in this West Coast game, but I did want to touch on Scotty Pendlebury, who really turned back the clock and probably gets the 3 votes, as Anthony Hudson called in the goal that he kicked in the final term. 28 disposals, 13 contested possessions, 8 score involvements, 9 clearances, 10 inside 50s, 570 metres gained, 6 tackles and a goal. I mean, it is absurd numbers from a man who is at an age where many have retired for years on end. He is just performing at another level once again. And not that he hasn't been enjoying his football, I'm sure, but this last 3 or 4 years, I don't think I've seen him happier or more positive or just embracing what is going on at the club right now. And it's giving him more opportunities to play games and playing him at a high level he is.
Yeah, absolutely, Nico. And I don't think he'd be alone there. I think if we look across, Craig McRae's tenure so far, there's a lot more happier footballers out on the park, and isn't it funny how that translates into success? But gee, was clean on Saturday night in a game where we just felt like we weren't moving the ball, quite as freely and free-flowingly as we wanted to. Pendles, as always, just kept taking the P155 and was the silky smoothest. And I think he really took advantage of the young West Coast midfield, and just we obviously know that he's made it his trademark, moving in slow motion and selling the candy and making people look a bit silly. But I think he saw the young West Coast midfield as a bit of an opportunity just to really put that on showcase. And it was really nice to see him get rewarded with that goal at the end there. And yeah, as you said, Dicko, I don't know if he'll get the 3 Brownlow votes, but we'll get to our votes later. He's certainly getting my 3 votes because I thought he was best on ground.
It was almost like he was toying with them a bit. But that goal was nice, and it's been nice to see the celebrations and kind of the stories behind them. And I think obviously that's talk about being happier, but obviously having the family now and the couple of kids and them being able to recognise what he's doing on the field and being able to they're old enough now to know what's kind of going on. Yeah. So I think that's definitely made him a happier footballer, but also I think just the weight of, obviously he was captain all those years, but a few tough years there being captain of Collingwood, a lot of the pressure.
He was the one constant throughout that whole time, wasn't he?
And obviously all the issues off field and the Bucks stuff and Maguire, and just I feel like it's probably been undersold how strong he was through that period, but being captain of the club, it obviously would have taken its toll. And I think just the past few years it's just been so fulfilling for him, obviously, to get the premiership, but just being able to have fun with his football again.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're seeing that in spades as well. We probably rest him for one more match, I feel like, this year before we get to finals.
Don't rest Gold Coast.
Because we're going.
And that, honestly, that's what you're thinking about rest, but that Gold Coast game looms as kind of a potential finals preview with the way the Gold Coast are going about things at the moment. Playing there as well, it's going to be not a game you're resting your stars at all. So
Well, they play Essendon this week, so it should be pretty easy for them, sorry. Anyway, he did not
unnecessary.
Like that. He did not like that. Anything else then? Really?
Not really. I wouldn't mind shouting out Pat Lipinski, who I thought had a really solid showing, building on from his second half against the Sainers there last week. Yep. Got a lot of the ball in the forward half of the ground, and I think probably, as well as having a solid game, probably highlight how important he is actually for us in the middle in that transition play. Lacking a bit of cleanliness, lacking sort of an ability just to hit a target down the line for a large majority of the night. So although he had a solid showing, just looking at his stats before, most of his possessions were forward of centre. So this week against the Blues, I think in the form that he's in, I'd like to be seeing him sort of, a bit more in the guts / our defensive zone. And I also thought Josh Daicos' game was worth highlighting, especially in the first half. Again, I've spoken about it before. He's not been noted as one that goes in and puts his head over the ball. That's just not his style of play, but I think he's slowly having that as a part of his game, and that was on show in full effect on Saturday night, especially in the first half when he was sort of going in there and saving us down there in the back six. So, he had a really good showing as well.
Liked it. Yep. Anything from you?
Not much. Trying to think.
Did you sing the song, Lucky?
No.
That video you just lost?
No, I sung a bit of it, but no. That's what my partner said. You just wouldn't think you just won the game. So, no, still tried to enjoy the fact that we won, but probably celebrated a bit more that we're not having to go back to Marvel Stadium. I don't mind watching footy there, but God, we're awful there. It just feels like it's just a tough slog. And it's felt like that for years. It's not like it's just come about lately. It's
all 3 games this year. So North started slow, got away late. Saints started slow, got away late. Eagles, same deal. Even North last year at Marvel as well was a real tough grind.
Sorry about starting slow. We gave him a 50-point head start at half time.
Exactly right. So, yes, good riddance. You didn't get kicked out of the Marvel game after like you did last week.
Well, they're very quick again, the security team.
Of course they are.
I don't know how you got your review out.
I was getting kicked out as I was doing the video.
They want to get out of there just as much as we do.
Yeah. So, but quick shout out to Oleg Markov,
of course,
coming on. But it was just funny when he had got a little run on. I think Myercheck might have passed it to him, and it was kind of like, just go for a run, mate. And just the crowd, cheer for Oleg. So nice for him. Obviously tough for him to see how he stays in the side, but it's always great to have him out there, whether it's sub or starting in the side.
Is that twice or 3 times now that Fly's gone to him as the first emergency? So obviously he does see something.
There's almost like potential that there's a role for him in the back end of the year. He's just got to keep plucking away, and you just never know with injuries or form and things like that. So he keeps doing the right things, obviously at VFL level, and then when he gets his chance at AFL level, just do his thing.
We're not sure how this will slot in terms of structure and whatnot, but is he not the perfect replacement for Beau McCreary? Because he has that explosive pace, and he plays in the back line. He's not scared of getting physical. I think like there's a role for him to play there if we see fit, I think, anyway. But pardon me, I'm just not too sure potentially because with the ins that we've got coming in, how that might all set up. But as Lukey said, the crowd really does get a lift when he goes near the ball.
I think he's a great sub.
Yeah, I think
he's a perfect
Beau's emerging as a really nice clearance-winning midfielder. And I just obviously don't think Markov's got that.
Yeah.
Tom Mitchell's the other one we got to watch, and we'll touch on the VFL report very shortly. But I don't think he's far away. Surely can't be far away from having to go. All right, let's get your votes then, please, from the match against the Eagles.
I have to do this on you go, Lukey.
I'm going to quickly, without much thoughts, we're going to go 1 vote Jack Crisp. No, actually 1 vote Nick Daicos.
Okay.
Crispy stiff.
1 vote Nick Daicos, 2 votes Crisp. So he's not stiff.
Okay.
He's better off.
He's in there.
After my little Nick Daicos bake, I couldn't give him 2 votes. 3 votes Scotty Pendlebury, winding back the clock. And honestly, he'd be up there as potential All-Australian in the squad, I think. And that's not being biased, I don't think.
Chris, highest rated Collingwood play on the ground, by the way, on Saturday night. So deserves his look there. Jack?
Yeah, for sure. We haven't mentioned him yet, but he gets my 1 vote as well. Nico, I'm probably one of the few that was across the 4 quarters, was really solid for us. Loving how strong he's looking at the moment, by the way, like standing up in a lot of tackles, not sort of going to ground very easily. So he's been massive for us. So he gets 1, 2 to Nick. I think he probably gets the 3, but he's victim of his own status. Again, just quite not as clean and as classy as Nick Daicos has been up to this point in his career. And as we mentioned before, Scotty P gets my 3 votes. Nico?
Very similar. I mean, I thought Jack Crisp was certainly serviceable. I mean, it sounds a bit default. I'm going to sneak Darcy Cameron in for 1 vote. I thought he was pretty good. I mean, I know he's not coming up against much, but still finished with 19 disposals, 3 marks, 2 tackles, 8 clearances, and 36 hit outs. So I thought it was enough for me to give him a vote. And then 2 to Nick, 3 to Scott Pendlebury. Interestingly, though, Harry Perriman, 5 coaches' votes from the 2 men in charge on the weekend.
Does his role, Nico. Every time he goes near it, he just does exactly what he needs to do. And mate Liam highlights that week in, week out. He's a no-nonsense footballer. Just anytime, as I said, anytime he gets his chance, he halves the contest or better. Very rarely makes a mistake. Touch wood. Very rarely makes a mistake. But just really, really solid in. And I think because he doesn't do the flashy things or what's considered the flashy things in our game. He probably goes a little bit unnoticed, but so far been a really, really solid
He's the
contributor.
type of player that you need in your team
100%.
to win premierships. 92% disposal efficiency by Perryman. I know he only had the 13. It was also Houston, 18 disposals at 94%.
That was definitely one of his better games as well, Dan Houston.
And I think Houston's coming along very nice. I don't think he's going to be I think what the expectation coming in is 25, 30 plus disposals every week and be BOG. But I think he's, again, another player that's just playing his role and slowly finding his way. But the more footy he can get, the better for this team. 94% disposal efficiency. And
100%.
that beautiful finish, which you said pretty much, made sure we were winning that game or showed them who's boss. So, he's another one just coming along nicely.
Very nice. All right, let's chuck the cans on. This is SpeakPie. We love hearing what you guys have to say post-game. We've got only a few, but they are long ones, and I'm very keen to
you manage to get some long ones.
Jeez, well, I think you'll pump up again today, Luke, with put a few extra in, but no, we're very much.
But I feel like it was one of those games where people want to vent about how bad it was. So it's like
maybe
turns out
that's
you
what
get some good reactions.
All right, we're going to start with Dean. So thank you, Dean, for sending yours through.
Dean from Wang here. Why is it that every team that comes out to play against the Pies treats it like their grand final and plays out of their skins? Makes me go crazy. Poor old Josh. He had not a real good game. He got 20 possessions, but I think he needs to work on his disposals a bit. Got pretty harsh, he's played some good games. Tonight wasn't his best. Nick popping up with one was good. And a few other boys picking up, but my God, why can't we just bury teams? I just love to bury teams and get some great percentage, but it is what it is. Aim for Carlton next week and get some percentage here, hopefully. Thanks, boys. Great pod. See ya.
Oh, that would be nice.
We mentioned it before, but I've got to give credit to the West Coast Eagles. They were no easy beats on Saturday night, and again, we weren't at our best, but they were potentially. And Craven Cray said it a little bit in his presser after. If you look at their results, they've been trending kind of in the right direction.
I was going to say their season hasn't been as bad as it probably feels like. They've been in
They're one of the better one-win teams.
Like they nearly beat Essendon, didn't they? And I don't know if Essendon's much to gloat about, but I feel like they've been in games. They have. North.
Well, they were up at half-time against Brisbane at the Gabba earlier this year.
A lot as well.
Yes. So probably should have beaten Richmond. So, you're right. There's definitely a few opportunities.
Yeah.
Next up is John. So thank you, John, for sending yours in.
G'day, boys. It's John from Druin here. I hope you guys had a magnificent Saturday night. Look, in my household, we like to refer to the Collingwood West Coast game as the Divorce Cup, as my wife unfortunately barracks for West Coast Eagles, and she's been hanging on to 2018 since 2018. Nothing else for her, but look, it wasn't probably the margin we're looking for, but our boys stood up strong, particularly Scott Pendlebury, who should definitely have a statue built for him outside Vicky Park when he retires. But look, it's nice that we donated all that money to the AFL by selling our 2 home games to Marvel Stadium. Probably cost us about 60,000 supporters. But you know what? We move on to playing the Icon Park graffiti artists next week. And looking forward to that. See you boys later. Bye.
Imagine what will be up on those walls if we come out and smack them.
How funny were the remakes that came from that? Like people just changing it to Keep Voss. Maynard was blocked.
I don't expect anything less from that rabble, mate. I really don't. One of our favourites, Marcus from Dallas, and our sponsor, North Texas Devils, a big win for them, which I'm sure he'll touch on. But great to see that Marcus was still able to come in with something. So thank you.
Gentlemen, you'll have to excuse my late entry here. I'm just at the Kansas City airport heading back to Dallas. Look, I'm going to be absolutely candid with you. Did not watch a minute of the game on Saturday because I was getting ready for the Central Regional Championship. North Texas Devils wiped the absolute floor with all 3 teams on the day, beat the absolute piss out of them, and we won the championship. Cups are ours, full of beer. Was a sight to be seen. I've had about 60 Carlton drafts on the day and the cartwheel, as you would have seen. So good turnout for the old fella. Hooroo, well done to the Pies, well done to the Devils, and we'll catch you next week. Cheers, bye.
If you saw on our story, that was Marcus doing the cartwheel on the mark when the opposition was having a shot on goal. But yes, great to see that the Devils got up. Nice to see get the trophy in their cabinet.
Congratulations, boys. Yes, huge win, and great to see some good footage come from it, sent through from Peter, and the posted on the Devils page as well.
Absolutely.
Not only is the win important, obviously congratulations to the Devils for getting some trophy cabinet fillers, but also impressive there, Nico. Carlton draft was he drinking? You get that over in America. That's a win in itself. That's well done.
Found a way to sneak it in somehow. No, very good. Ahmad sent one in as well, so we thank him.
G'day, boys. You think first playing 18th would be a little bit more stress-free than that, but here we are. You just knew that performance was coming from the Eagles with Gov retiring, but I think we held up relatively well defensively with the amount of inside 50s conceded, and our intercept king, Jeremy Howe, playing a huge role in that. I think it has shown the past 2 weeks some areas of improvement before heading into some more serious games. One being clearances, although we did win against the Eagles. I just think that's a common area that we are losing, and we do need to clear that up. Whether Titch is the common replacement there, I have no idea, but it is an area to improve on. And the second being the ease of teams moving between the arcs with very minimal pressure on that. We did get caught out a few times out the back in that first half. Hasn't really happened with Billy Frampton in the team, so I'm not sure if Charlie Dean is the answer. Don't want to obviously change up too much defensively, but I just think if we nip it in the bud before he needs to play on a Charlie Curnow or a Ben King in the upcoming 2 weeks, I think that does need to happen. Why that caught my eye, not that any of you asked, but Dan Houston, I think, is building very, very well. I think the moment of the match that sort of switched the momentum to us was that huge 55-metre bomb with 6 seconds to go in that third quarter. Definitely won us that game, I think. Cheers, boys.
There you go.
Yeah,
nice measured thoughts there.
It's an important point about Dan Houston as well. I think his 2 best games for the Pies have been in, or one of them was against a 90-point thrashing of his former side, and then this one against a lesser side in West Coast. So hopefully this is sort of just a little bit of a confidence booster that he needs to carry forth and go on for the rest of the season, because I'm really looking for him to step up in a big game.
100%. Ponsford Pete we'll get to, so thank you.
Morning, lads. Happy Monday. Another good win. Interesting reading this morning. There's a few articles going around about the wobbly month of the Pies and how we're suddenly vulnerable. You know, the points differential on top isn't reflective of the teams surrounding us. Sort of funny considering a month ago we were travelling too well and peaking early. But anyway, our position allows us to try things like Saturday night. We were way too tall. We were tall from selection. And it was clear we were going to try some different things. We were the most aggressive by foot that I can remember going through the middle. Nick and Josh turned it over, Pendlebury. They were just trying to stretch West Coast defence and get it in quicker, and that's just not us. But our position allows us to try these things. It allows us to muck around with the game plan a bit, find what works, what we can tweak. It allows us to be cautious with blokes coming back from injury, like Shooter, like Maynard. We're in ultimate timing our run mode at the moment, so you'd be a fool to fall into the narrative of worry or dread about where we sit or what the month has looked like. 2023, the Pies went 3-3 to end the year. I don't remember that. Don't know about you guys, but the same thing can be said about this year. I'm not going to remember rounds 13 to 16 when the same thing happens and we win a flag. Don't worry, up the mags, go the Pies.
Perfectly summed up.
Very well measured, and I think a lot of Collingwood fans should listen, and even Fox Footy media analysts.
That was very impressed with that
because
analysis.
he's right. Because like a month ago after the Hawthorn game, everyone's going, well, they've peaked. They can't get better than this. This is amazing. And then the other commentary is, and I'll put my hand up. I've said to a few last week, I'm worried about how we're trending. If we come up against good sides, how's this going to look? But there's a lot of footy to be played, and we're going to have a lot of opportunities between now and September should we qualify, just to really just keep reminding everyone of how good we are.
I'm not worried. I just want to be a bit more less stressed at the ground in terms of let's just win.
Let's just win easily.
Yeah, so that's what on Saturday, that was where my frustration was. I'm like, I know we're not going to play like this when it matters, but it was more like, I just wish it was more like, 50 plus points and we're just cruising to the finish line. And it felt like we just didn't really get a highlight from the game. There were a couple in the end, but like it just felt like there were no fun moments. That's where I was like, I just want a bit more fun.
Yeah.
So,
For sure.
But other than that, I think we are just, that was perfect. The timing, our run mode or whatever he said, that was perfect because that's exactly where we are right now is you don't want to peak too early and you don't want to be playing too good and all these kind of things, but it is also, let's just manage things till...
I think everyone just looked at Sydney last year and they think that's going to be the model going forward when that's just absolutely
they'd end
not.
up for him.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's absolutely not the case.
It's the biggest. It's one of the biggest overreactions I think how sides are actually travelling throughout the season because Sydney were the blueprint, Nico, as you said last week. I said going to the grand final, Brisbane wouldn't get within 6 goals of them, and the result was the exact opposite. So, in a game where the season is ultimately defined by one game at the end, it doesn't really matter how you get there. You just got to get there, and then
they still got
the
there.
day.
That's the thing.
Exactly right.
So it's not like it's just a mare they've had on the day, but they did still get there. It wasn't like they completely crashed out. So
All right, we're going to finish with a fan favourite. That's Colin. He always likes to send them in, and he's been fantastic in his analysis. So let's see what he had to say after Saturday night.
Hi, Pies Nations boys. Colin here. Well, the Eagles threw everything at us, but we still came out on top. Our system and our talent, ably led by the usual suspects. I won't name them because you know who they are. But overall, a great team effort. Now, this flooding business that the teams seem to be throwing at us lately. On 4 or 5 occasions during the game, every player was in our half of the ground. No wonder our forwards had nowhere to lead into. Rodney Eade and the Sydney Swans, they need to be bent over and rogered, as far as I'm concerned, for introducing it into the game.
Rogered?
Because it's such a horrible-looking spectacle. Anyway, whatever teams throw at us, I'm sure our coaches will be able to get us through. Well, that's about all for now, boys. Go Pies!
That was unexpected from Cole, but we love it nonetheless. Thank you for calling in once again, mate. Always a highlight.
All right, if you're rocking, if you're listening to that, Jesus.
Well,
okay.
We're a bit perplexed by that, aren't we?
That's a new way I think I'll describe something. Anyway,
have you ever heard that term?
Nope.
I've never.
No.
We've obviously probably heard a few ways of that being described, but never Roger. That was it was PG enough, obviously, for Nico to.
I'm going to start using that. I'm sick of being bent over and Roger.
Yeah, screen that one out the outfield.
We are getting rogered by these others.
Oh, thanks to Colin and thanks to everyone that put one in. We'd love to play them all, and hopefully you'll get your turn as well in the coming weeks. So keep sending them in when we do get the opportunity post-game. I guess the final margin was 29 points. Do we have anyone close? No.
No, close, but not exact.
Okay.
No, so
Everyone thought we were going to win big, were we?
Yeah, well, I was 71.
71?
Oh, yeah. Well, I thought we'd kill them. But I got the closest to the crowd that I've gotten for a while. It was about 400 or 500 off. So I was in the same thousands. So.
You're going to win it one day, and we know what we're going to have to do.
It's always exciting coming
so
up. Oh, there's a crowd and just the messages that start coming through. So,
well, who are we going to be speaking to today, Luke?
It's Andreas, I believe it was.
Yep.
And he is another Pies Collingwood sort of digital creator, I guess, or content creator. He's Black and White United on YouTube.
Oh, fair.
If anyone.
He's getting himself a bit of a pump up now.
So we'll see if he does give him a pump. He might give his own pump up.
Right. He did also send a SpeakPie from the weekend, but I thought, seeing as he has one, we thought we'd give him some extended time now.
Yep.
So well done, Andreas. We're going to give you a call now. Can't wait to speak to you.
Hello.
Is this Andreas?
It is, yes.
It's Nicholas from Pies Nation. Well done on being, I guess, the crowd competition winner this week. How are things?
Yeah, good, mate. Yourself?
Yes, all going well here. 7 wins in a row, even though it was an ugly result on Saturday nights. But nice to be sitting pretty on top of the ladder. First question off the rank, as we always like to ask. We love to know the methods behind the winners of our Guess the Crowd competition winner. Anything particular for you this week in terms of your guess?
Oh, I hate to disappoint you boys, but it was pretty much just luck of the fingers, whatever I was typing at the time. But I did put 41 at the end for my check for his 150th.
Yep.
But I did want to know, I was 15 off the actual total. So I want to know where these 15 people were that didn't come to the game because I would have got the spot on.
Yeah, well, maybe the Eagles just didn't want to have a travel all the way from Perth. No, that's very good. Luke, before I get to my next question, a lot of 41s I'm guessing in the crowd guesses, particularly because of my checks milestone from memory. Because I saw a few.
Were there? Yeah. That's kind of how I do it sometimes, is like, just throw those last few random numbers based on something like that. There was someone, the other close, and they thought they had one. It was 143. So, Andreas, you were very lucky that I did spot your...
Very good result. Tell us about your thoughts from Saturday night, Andreas. Give us a rundown of what took place. Obviously not much to talk about from a game perspective, but good enough for us to get the win.
No, 4 points, grab it and run pretty much. Look, I've noticed the last couple of weeks, not just with this game in particular, but we've just been exposed at little times throughout the game, especially against Melbourne and the first half against St Kilda, and I feel like it carried on a little bit during this game. Just the transition from their back line straight through the middle, it got us a few times down the corridor, and Fly said it in his presser as well, and I was pretty happy that he brought it up because it was quite noticeable how they were just getting the ball quite easily out of the back line and then bringing it forward. And then I think going in with the 4 tools in the forward line wasn't the greatest option in hindsight, but you had to obviously reward Charlie West for his form in the twos. But we really did miss the likes of McCreary and Schultz up forward just to create that sort of manic pressure and lock it in. Because Elliott, even though being a small forward, he does play tall, and he's played tall most of his career at Collingwood, just because we haven't really had that strong forward line or that strong, potent, tall forward since pretty much Travis Cloak. So, it's he's got so many different roles. And I felt like it was almost 5 talls at some points throughout the game. But look, if we're going to flirt with form a little bit, I suppose now's the time to do it, to try and see what we can muster up coming towards the next month of football. So all credit to West Coast, though. They really took it up to us. But I just hope that we don't start like that next week, even albeit against the Blues. You just don't want to start like that because obviously they're a bit better than them. So you don't want to.
Are they?
You think so. You don't know. But being like 9 points down here and there and playing like that against a better side, you might be 20 or 30.
Yep.
So I'm just hoping that we can continue that last quarter form and then just push forward from there.
Now, Andreas, it's Luke here. Congratulations on the Guess the Crowd, and thanks for coming on. I just wanted to touch on, so you're another, I guess, Collingwood fan content creator with your Black and White United on YouTube. Tell us a little bit about that, how you got that started, and where people can find you on social media or on the YouTube as well.
Yeah, thanks. So not to sound too lovey-dovey with you boys or anything, but you guys are probably one of the inspirations for me to start it. To be honest, I really do love what you guys do.
Thank you.
And then, they're all good. And I just thought, I don't know, there was all different types of content creators and stuff. And being a Collingwood fan pretty much all my life, I'm 36 years of age. I think this is my 30th year as being a member this year. So I just thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to just start speaking my mind a little bit and see where it takes me. And the reception was pretty good. If it didn't get a really good sort of reception at the start, I probably wouldn't have gone on with it because I'm a little bit of an introvert at times. Not that my wife thinks that, but I am. So I just started it, and then it's been going pretty well. It's been 7 months, I think. So almost at 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So nice. It passes the time away. It's something else to do outside of work and the family, I suppose.
Nice work, Andreas. Just Jack here, mate. Thanks again for taking the time to come on, and thanks for those words of support. It really does mean a lot. And Lucky's got your YouTube channel up here, and that's quite an impressive following you've amounted there, mate. On the Collingwood media chat, continuing that on, do you have a favourite post that you like doing, or a favourite type of video that you look forward to doing? Is it one against big rivals like the Blues that we've got coming up against this week, or it might be ones that we know are going to get the reactions when we're perhaps not going so well? Do you ever look forward just before you press that post button on YouTube to seeing what kind of reactions you're going to get, and what type of video is that?
It's really funny that you mentioned that, because that's actually coming up this week. I've been asked to go on a couple of channels for the Carlton channels, and I've been mates with a couple of them like outside of footy for a long time, and I went on there when we played them earlier on during the season, and obviously they were coming off, not winning a few games and stuff, and they were a little bit edgy and stuff like that. But I think the reception I'm going to get from them now is a bit more mellow. So I think I could probably take advantage of them a little bit more, hopefully. So if we can get the 4 points, regardless, even if we play the way that we did last week, I'll be pretty rapt, because then I won't look like an idiot afterwards. So,
Very good.
Oh, yeah. No, it is one of those games, honestly, where it is just have to win. Doesn't matter how you play. Or what the performance looks like. Just got to get the job done, especially with the way they're travelling at the moment. It's fantastic that we've been able to bring up your content channel. You've been doing wonderful things. Before we do let you go, Andreas, we do want to get a backstory to what it's been like for you as a Collingwood supporter. So 36 years of age, you've seen plenty throughout your time, I'm sure. Tell us how that all started, and maybe some of your favourite memories along the way in the roller coaster that it is being a Pies fan.
Oh, I'm just looking at my watch now, how much time you got. Look, I had no choice at birth. Pretty much as soon as I was born, Mum said that Dad put like a Collingwood Teddy footy in the bassinet next to my head.
Nice.
And then there was no sort of looking back after that. My cousin's a mad Carlton supporter. He's sort of like my brother more than my cousin, and he tried to get me over to the dark side when I was younger, and I stayed. I stuck fat. I didn't change, and this is when Carlton were going really well and winning a flag, and we were towards the bottom. But I stuck fat, and I'm pretty happy with my decision. Just
Thank God for that.
But yeah, look, I had no choice at birth, and Dad was, mad Collingwood supporter. My first game was the first game that I went to was in 1993, and we lost to St Kilda at Waverley, I think, by about 8 points. Got to see Peter Daicos play. Don't remember any of it, though. But I can say that I've seen all the Daicos boys play. So that's showing my age a little bit there. Best memory, though, I mean, I could turn around. Obviously, we can say, the flag in 2010, the flag in 23, and you can't really surpass that. But it's probably a game, 2002 Anzac Day always rings a bell for me. Nice. I think it was because, we hadn't beaten Essendon on Anzac Day for a while. Yep. And it was just one of those, it was a wet, sloppy day. It was the day Mark McGough
game, yes.
He won the Anzac Day medal. And I remember it pretty clearly, but I think there was just a sense of, after we won that game, it was like, oh, wow, Essendon were still relatively decent back then, and it just gave us that little bit of hope. And then also probably that year as well, I mean, you could talk about the prelim final against Adelaide. That was, Rocker's goal, Loney's run to him and stuff like that. Biff Harris's goal and thing. I mean, we could be here for ages just talking absolute biblical, stuff right now. But I reckon the game against Brisbane at, back then I think it was Colonial Stadium, whatever it is, we won by 3 points, I think it was, and against Brisbane that year. I think that one was the sense of something special could be on the cards here. And I remember that game as a kid, and I think that was when you first really tasted, hey, we're actually a decent side now, coming off the bottom. Yeah. I think that was one of my favourite childhood moments, apart from obviously the grand final in 2010 and in 23 and stuff. But when we could go back and go through an encyclopedia of all Collingwood games here, and they're all good moments in their own right.
Well, we might have to get you on for an episode and we can chat through some of those memories, Andreas, because it's been fantastic to reminisce already with you. But well done on getting the Guess the Crown competition, or being the Guess the Crown competition winner this week. Great to hear your story. Keep up the good work with Black and White United, and hopefully we're celebrating another premiership with you this year.
Thanks, boys. Thanks for having me. I've tried to guess the crowd for a couple of months now, but it was good to finally get pretty close and get up. Thanks, boys.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for your support.
Cheers. Thanks, Andreas.
Cheers.
That was Andreas joining us as part of our Guess the Crowd competition. That could be you if you guess the crowd closest, so give it your best shot when Lukey puts up the posts coming up to each match day. Have a crack, and if you are closest to the pin, that will be you joining us as part of our Guess the Crowd competition winner. Great to give these other little content creators a bit of a push, but it was very impressive, Andreas.
Crazy to be the inspiration, for another page or something like that.
Yeah, that's all you, boys. I don't think anyone's looking at me for any sort of inspiration.
Just, so shout out to all those guys who are putting in the work, and we love seeing all different types of content come out.
Yep.
Obviously, Collingwood related, it's great to see. So whether we're a little step or a little part of helping someone else is just amazing to hear.
Yeah, rising tides rise all ships, Lukey. So when someone else is going well, it's not necessarily a competition. It's sort of, it helps everyone out, I think, especially in this footy content space. And so good to hear some of the footy knowledge. Clearly, Andreas has been around a long time, and I know it's not one that picks up in my mind, that 2002 Anzac Day game, or indeed the one against Brisbane, but I know there'll be supporters out there listening, and that would have triggered hopefully a few good happy memories.
Absolutely. So get involved with Black and White United if you haven't subscribed already. Mind you, we were laughing before, our poor producer Daniel, he's copped 3 Essendon barbs in this episode, and I didn't even play on the weekend, so I don't know how much longer he's going to stick around, because at this point he must be getting absolutely fed up with us. Let's move to the VFL report. Marcus not here, of course, but Serge had us covered with our match against Southport. That's our boss telling us that we've gone over the line. Absolutely outstanding performance from the Pies again to get another win, travelling over at the Gold Coast. So a good result there for the Pies. Quick summary here from Serge. Took on last year's grand finalist and the third place. I didn't realise they were that high up the ladder. But the third place Southport Sharks. Will Hayes was back along with 6 other VFL listed players. It was a slow start by both teams initially before the Sharks kicked 3 consecutive goals. Collingwood's defence was struggling against Southport's experienced forwards, and the Sharks were on top of the clearances with their big man Crossley matching Mason Cox in the hitouts. Both teams moved the ball fast, but skill errors were hampering the scoring. Collingwood scored their first goal at the 19-minute mark, courtesy of mid-season draftee Rowan Steele. Collingwood were, however, down by 11 points, and Mitchell looked like he was getting a tag early in the match. Better pressure by Collingwood in the second term, however, multiple missed opportunities in front of goals kept the game close. The Sharks played a more uncontested ball game, chipping the ball around and slowing the match down. Collingwood were getting their run game together, though, creating many forward opportunities with goals to Riley Mason, Bennett and Murphy to reduce the deficit to 3 points. Cochrane stood out in defence. Hayes off the ground in the second term, however, with a bit of an injury, but still managed 3 goals. After the main break, the contest tightened up with the lead changing several times. The Pies were now winning their fair share of centre clearances, as well as stoppages and rebounding multiple Southport forward attacks. Cox looked good in the forward line, bringing the ball to ground, which allowed the Pies' small men to kick goals. Kennedy, Marnie and Murphy all scored majors to put the Pies 5 points up heading into the final term. The inexperienced Collingwood defence led by Glover and Cochrane held fast. Both teams missed opportunities, but Mitchell was really strong in the stoppages to ensure that the Pies' pressure was maintained. The Sharks appeared to lose their run when Hayes, who was back on the ground, scored his first goal, and Collingwood led by 10 points. When Harris Kennedy kicked his second for the day, the victory was in sight. In what was a top effort away from home, Collingwood prevailed by 9 points. 2 different contrasting game styles. The Sharks were chipping the ball around after quarter time. The Pies preferred to run and carry the ball mainly through the centre corridor and around the wings when required. The game style today was more efficient for Collingwood. A great effort from our VFL players as well, particularly in attack. So a nice result there from the boys. And again, great to see some of these names continuing to have an impact too.
Yeah, well, we've probably forgotten about, considering we fielded 4 tall forwards, and we've already spoken about how that might not be the best mix going forward. But Mason Cox, good to hear his name in and amongst the best, and thank you to the Surge for doing that for us once again. But we know that these big boys, they can get injured, and they can get injured in quick succession. So with someone like Mason, who's had the experience in the big games come finals time, and we know that he's still able to come in and play a role for us should we need it. Fingers crossed. A lot of things will have to go wrong for Mason to be coming back into this side, I think. But still positive signs for him to know that he's still in some form.
My partner asked me, where's the big, tall American? He's in the
Still miss him
VFL.
in games, I reckon.
Why
sometimes.
is he in the VFL? Well, I had to explain,
Jeez, imagine we played him on Saturday. That's all we would have been. So, no, well done by Collingwood's VFL team, who are looking in good form. They are 8-4 and sit in 7th spot. We take on Carlton this week. They are 6-6. Playing at Icon Park next Saturday night, 5th of July at 7:10 p.m.
That'll be Carlton's threes as well, because they've been fielding their twos the last few weeks.
Threes.
So that could
3
get
and a
ugly
half.
as well, hopefully.
The VFLW girls also got a win. They defeated Box Hill by 11 points at Box Hill, 4-10 to 3-5. So it definitely could have been a much bigger scoreline had we kicked a little bit straighter. But the Hawks came back late in the final term, were able to go on and get the job done. And been putting a bit of a nice patch of form here, have the VFLW girls, which has been terrific to see. We are in 5th spot with a 7-3 record, so have been looking very good, one of the highest percentages in the comp as well. And the girls also take on Carlton. That game at Victoria Park on Saturday morning as well, 5th of July. So that's 10:05 a.m. So 3 games against Carlton for our footy teams this weekend. Hopefully 3 wins against the Blues and just really put them in their place.
It would be nice, Nico. Although, as often is the case when I sit here and talk drivel about other sides, it usually doesn't go in our favour. So fingers crossed.
It feels like the blowtorch has been on them the most of. It's been all year, I guess, this week.
Oh, yeah.
So, obviously, with a lot pushing for Voss out and things like that, and it kind of coming to a head at the moment, it's going to go one way or the other this week. It's like we put them away by nearly 100, or they come out and win and kind of. But as a Carlton fan, you're almost like. You probably want to be done big, so this is it. Let's cut.
I don't think they want to be done big against us regardless.
But I just think like when you're following a team and you're in that point, it's like you just want to see some change happen. And I don't know whether that's getting, obviously sacking coaches isn't something that's worked for them previously, but to keep going the way you are, and you get like a little win against us potentially or whoever, but. Then you're just sitting in the same position because nothing's going to change because it's kind of, going okay enough that, there's some positives, but you really need things to go bad to then see the change happen. And as a supporter, you probably want it to go bad at this point.
I think that'd be stupid if they sack Voss. It's not a Carlton podcast, so we won't bang on too much about it. But they lack so much depth. Their top end talent is up there with some of the best in the game. But I think Matty Lloyd made a pretty good point during the week about last week. About if you looked at Collingwood's list when both coaches in McRae and Voss took over, you couldn't honestly say that we had a better list than them. I think it's about Craig McRae's been able to get the best out of his perhaps not only his top end talent but also the role players in our side, and that's what Carlton lacked. But all last week they were berated in the media. I felt like every time I looked at a paper, it had Michael Voss or someone from the board on the front page, and they come out and they had 1 goal at a quarter time or 1 goal to half time. On Thursday night against the Power. So it's actually going to be a really interesting watch to see. Obviously, arch rivals against Collingwood. It's their probably last real big game of the year. They had every reason to come out fully firing last week and didn't. So whether or not they're able to get themselves up this week against the best team in the comp, we will see.
We'll have a preview of that Blues game coming up for you later this week. All right. Ready for a game?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A wrap up? Don't sound so excited. New format, this one. So one we haven't done before on this podcast. So this time, you're actually up against each other.
Oh, great.
So I can really look like an idiot.
No, this will be good. So I want you to name 2010 Collingwood Premiership players. And the first person that can't name somebody loses.
Okay.
So you go 1, 1, 1, 1.
Yep.
And then you either, if you give me a wrong name or you can't think of one in a reasonable amount of time, you lose.
Cool.
Who's going first?
Who wants to go first?
You go first, mate.
Alan Didak.
So Alan Didak, yes.
Tyson Goldsack.
Tyson Goldsack.
Scott Pendlebury.
Darren Jolly.
Dane Swan.
Steel Sidebottom.
Alan Tuvey.
Lee Brown.
I
forgot about two.
I need to start thinking. Because I'm going to forget who we've actually mentioned because we've gone pretty quick so far.
You have, and you caught me off guard too. I've been trying to count them. So
Steele, Pendles, Darren Jolly, Lee Brown, Alan Tuvey,
Travis Cloak. Maybe we just go a touch slower then.
All right, Can we start again?
Okay.
So that I can actually just a little bit slower, and I'll be able to because
you just went, hey, that
like it's great, but like fuck. All right, hold on. Okay.
All right.
Go.
Sherrod Wellenkamp, who I didn't mention before, but now I've forgotten.
Alan Didak.
Lee Brown.
Scott Pendlebury.
Nick Maxwell.
We still need to slow down.
No, you're right.
We're up to Nick Maxwell so
Yep,
far.
I'm all good. Yep.
Are we good? Darren Jolly.
Has that been mentioned already?
You mentioned him the first go round.
Nah, go on.
Heretia Lumumba.
Alan Tuvey. Did you mention?
No, you're good.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. Have we re-mentioned Steele yet?
No.
Okay, Steele side bottom. It's kind of hard to think.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. Brent McCaffer.
Oh, it's a good one. I'm trying to remember how far. As Tyson Goldsack. We mentioned him.
No, you're good.
Second time along.
Tick, 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 tick.
Did we say Travis Cloak again yet?
No, you're good.
Travis Cloak.
Yep.
His sidekick, Dawson. Chris
Dawes.
Dawes.
Good.
Oh, I'm in trouble now. I'm getting like mind blank big time at the moment. We said Swanee again. Dane Swan.
Oh, damn it.
Because I'm forgetting who we mentioned.
Yeah. I'm trying to even think positionally, but then you can't
Tick, tick, tick.
think of...
5.
It's there, but I'm probably
4.
not going to get there.
3.
Far out. No, I've gone so blank.
2.
This is so embarrassing. I've gone so blank. I'm going to go
1.
with... No, it's got... Oh, Jared Blair.
Oh, you just got in. All right.
Now, I was the whole time thinking, who?
I was trying to think of who the sub
I'm
could
trying to
have been.
think of moments.
Oh, we've missed a big one here. I've got one locked in.
5.
You got this, mate.
4.
Who kicked the first goal?
3.
Think you kick like a late goal on the in the
2.
goal square.
1.
No, I'm gone. I think I'm going to be so annoyed.
All right.
God, that's a hard one.
We didn't
I'm
mention
not-
one of the biggest. Daisy Thomas. We didn't.
Yeah.
mention
I'm
So-
shocking at these type of
Alright.
things because
I'll tell you who you missed.
my whole brain just stops.
That's all right.
Who were you going to get?
Daisy Thomas was going to be my next
Okay.
one.
So I would have counted Leon Davis if you said it, because technically he is a premiership player.
Mm.
Is
But
he
you-
really?
Yep.
How
Yeah.
so?
If you play in a draw, you still get a premiership medal.
Oh, there you
Yeah,
go. I didn't
yeah.
know
He
that.
was actually there for me, but I didn't say
There was a
him.
couple behind you could have gone for as well. So you missed Luke Ball, Dale Thomas, Nathan Brown, Ben Reid, Ben Johnson,
awful,
and Heath
honestly.
Shaw were the ones that you missed. But Jack got up, so well done.
Just, I think on the replay, I was
I
probably
hear the siren went and he
If by some miracle you got everybody and you needed more, I would have asked you to give me the rest of the list, 2010 list. And
Yeah,
Jesus, some names I'm going to have to go through with you later.
Tarkin Locky is still
Tarkin
on the
Locky
list
was
then.
on there. God.
Yeah.
Sean
Jack,
If you
Rusling.
remember watching I remember like the DVD of like the early season games and how different that side is compared to as you get to later in the season, and some of those older names that
Yeah.
kind of got pushed
Nah, but
out.
there's even like a Ryan Cook, Luke Rounds, Simon Buckley,
Luke Rounds,
Josh
goat on
Thomas,
the
Anthony
AFL
Corey.
game.
Josh Thomas was
On the list, yeah. He was
There
rookie
you go.
listed. Tristan Francis, Thomas Hunter, Jack Carter.
Don't
Any of
even-
those names sound?
Don't even.
Shay McNamara, the
Oh,
American.
yeah,
Yeah,
I remember that one.
there you go. So, all right, cool.
That was a good
Festy.
one.
Yeah, I'll try and refine it a little bit next time, but yes, I
was
thought
just,
that went
It's a
okay.
good game, but Nico's
Oh,
struggling.
like,
Yeah,
oh.
he's trying to
Like,
keep
I
up.
should've-
I think we screwed ourselves because then we were forgetting
Yeah,
who we had
Who
mentioned.
you said it again. All right, well, that was great. That was
It's
really
like
good.
you almost need the screen to show them once we've said them.
I'll get the
that's
boys
hard.
to.
Just about
I'll get the
everything.
boys to.
But then we could be like, all right, we know we've done him, and then
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll work that out for next week. Jack and Luke, thank you for joining me for this week, boys.
Thank you.
Thanks, boys. I think I'm going to be away for a fair bit now. 'Cause
Yes.
I'm getting up to Queensland where I'll be keeping the beers cold for you boys when we get up there against the sun.
Yes.
So looking forward to that. But I'm sure
Absolutely.
you three, you boys plus Marcus will nail it while I'm gone. So
Bit of a
enjoy
Pies
it.
Nation tour about
Yes.
the Gold Coast trip if anyone's in.
3 of us heading there, so very excited for that.
if anyone feels the sudden urge to shout us all 3 a beer, I'm sure we won't say no to that. No, I'm just kidding. Really looking forward to the trip though. Should be good.
Will be good. All right. Well, until next week, I've been Nicholas Sacco. You've been listening to or watching the Pies Nation podcast. So the pies are hot and the drinks are cold. We love all our listeners and viewers across Australia that enjoy the Pies Nation podcast, but we love our overseas viewers and listeners as well. And one of those that have gotten on board are the boys and girls over at the North Texas Devils in the US, who are looking for players to join their sides ahead of the 2025 season. Based in Dallas, Texas, and established back in 2020, they're hoping to bolster awareness of Australian rules football over in the US. And any of those listening or watching our podcast that are heading over to the US at some point this year, the one team for you to get involved with is the North Texas Devils. We'll give you all the information in our descriptions, I should say, across our podcasts and YouTube. But a great opportunity to get involved with some Aussie rules and teach the Yanks the best game in the world. And you can do so thanks to the North Texas Devils.